Honey, so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Tell me what's going on.
Welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com. And thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser. And we have an exciting show for you today. And everyone should be listening. So right now, what I want you to do is to call or text 7 people and encourage them to tune into this show on KBLKRadio.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a good one for you because we have Catherine Mendonca and with the United Against Police Terror, and Kate Yavenditti, and I hope I'm saying the names right, with Women Occupy San Diego. And this week's topic is the benefits and drawbacks of citizens review boards. Now, I have a little quote here out of it's Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it's I believe it was an article, book that he wrote, Between the World and Me, and he said something that's very interesting. I want to read it to you, and here it is, and I quote: "You may have heard the talk of diversity, sensitivity training, and body cameras. These are all fine and applicable, but they understate the task and allow the citizens of this country to pretend that there is real distance between their own attitude and those of the ones appointed to protect them. The truth is that the police reflect America in all of its will and fear, and whatever we might make of this country's criminal justice policies, it cannot be said that it was imposed by a repressive minority." All right, think about that. Let that soak in there. So today we want to talk about the Citizens Review Board, and I just want to give you a little overview of some of the information that I gathered. And the overview is the Citizens Review Board on policy practices, and these are some of the things that they do. Reviews and evaluates serious complaints brought by the public against officers of the police department of the city of San Diego. They also review all officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths. They also review and evaluate the administration of discipline arising from sustained complaints. Now, subsequent to the review and evaluation process, the board may choose to make policy and procedure recommendations to the chief of police. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, hopefully. Now, the purpose of the Citizens Review Board on police practices is to review and evaluate complaints brought by members of the public against officers of the police department of the city of San Diego, and to review and evaluate the administration discipline arising out of that. Here's the history. In the mid-1980s, after a controversial police shooting, the mayor and the city council established and appointed citizens to a citizens advisory board called CAB to review the police department's use of force policy. The board was designed to be temporary and expired after 12 months. The review process was a success, so they say, and the board was made permanent. In 1987, at the recommendation of the CAB, the city manager, the chief of police, appointed 15 committee members to serve on the civilian advisory panel on police practices. The purpose of this panel was to monitor the acceptance and investigation of complaints involving police officers to ensure thoroughness, objectivity, and just treatment of citizens and officers alike. In 1988, there were 2 propositions, Proposition F and G, were offered to the citizens of San Diego. F proposed a police review commission and was viewed by the civilian advisory panel as having a negative impact on the current system. G proposed a citizens review board on policy practices, that citizen review board, and was seen as most beneficial to the department and community. So G gained the most support and won the public vote. The new city charter amendment, Proposition G, gave the city manager the exclusive authority to create and establish a citizen review board on police practices to review and evaluate citizen complaints against police officers and disciplines arising from such complaints. Let me move on here. So, in other words, complaints against the San Diego police officers were going nowhere. Sure enough, as we look, let me move on here because So the CRB is a 23-member volunteer panel appointed by the mayor that reviews the Department of Internal Affairs investigation of so-called Category 1 citizen complaints, which can range from allegations of discrimination to improper use of force. If someone was shot by a police officer or dies during the arrest process, the Citizen Review Board reviews those cases regardless of whether a complaint's been filed. So I'd like to bring into the discussion Catherine Mendonca with United Against Police Terror and Kate Yavenditti with Women Occupy San Diego. And of course, we're going to be talking about the benefits and drawback of citizens review boards. Welcome to What's Happening Now, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I know you heard a lot of information. I know you guys probably were squirming in your seats like, oh, man, nah. Let me, I first want to start with just finding out about Ms. Mendonca, about the United Against Police Terror. And what is can you tell us about your organization?
Yeah, so my partner and I, my life partner, Aaron Leaf, and I decided, well, we were cop watching for a few years, and we decided to develop United Against Police Terror because we wanted something tangible to present to the public in terms of transparency and community accountability, like basically promoting civilian monitoring of police.
Right.
So we do have various drafted campaigns. One of the biggest ones that we have Justice for the San Diego Stolen Lives. Right now we're almost up to 600 officer-involved deaths by every branch of law enforcement since 1980. Because we found there really wasn't anything tracking any kind of... We also have a brutality list.
Okay.
But there really wasn't anything publicly being... There wasn't anything tracking how many officer-involved deaths from every branch in law enforcement, how many brutalities happen, what list of police officers within San Diego and countywide that have been involved, and what we're also demanding is knowing the status of each officer that was involved in numerous, either number of deaths or number of brutalities, and we're trying to push I think it was PERF who did the recommendation for the early warning system. So of course we're supporting PERF's recommendations and hoping that they can be followed. If that's Police Chief Zimmerman's, but basically we're promoting what we're doing in the process of having City Council, having basically the powers that be adapt the charter review, which Women Occupy is pushing, because that is basically what the community wants. They've basically done the groundwork, Women Occupy, and saying like this is while we're demanding this, we're just basically providing that transparency for the public.
And what is your role with United?
Well, there's two directors, one director of media and another one director of communications. I'm kind of developing the communication side of it, as far as mailings and speaking to press as far as the information that we've gathered. And we've been working for about 2 years, so we have a good number of data and ongoing monitoring of police through the police scanner is totally legal. I mean, I do encourage everyone to tune in if they want to know what the police are doing in their neighborhood. There's apps for it, and actually police scanners can run pretty inexpensive, considering the information that you'll gain from it. So
okay, and one more question before we get to Ms. Yavenditti. Did the sheriffs ever follow back up with you all about?
They have not. Regarding the hate mail we received coming from the sheriffs, they found it sustained, which of course we did the work for them.
Right, exactly.
So they they found the complaint sustained. They did not let us know what was the actual follow-up regarding that. And I just wanted to remind everyone that, just by your iPhone or any kind of mobile device that you have, you're able to download a police scanner audio, and the physical police scanner, which is also something that you can acquire because journalists and reporters, they would have something similar to arrive on the scene, run from about, I want to say, $50 to $200.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, pretty inexpensive if you want it, but it's well worth the investment. So we just want to encourage people, you have the right to listen in on what they're doing. So that's basically what we do on 24/7. So.
Excellent. So, Ms. Yavenditti,
Yes.
Can you tell us about Women Occupy and what is your role?
Sure. Women Occupy San Diego grew out of the Occupy movement.
Mm-hmm.
And people remember in 2011 that there was an Occupy movement down in Freedom Plaza. And we actually started as a legal team for the occupiers.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a lot of police brutality going on there, especially the sweeps when they were trying to get rid of Occupy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked really hard to get occupiers to file complaints about their mistreatment. And we, the legal team, actually it was very hard to convince people to do that because they felt it was worthless. And we tried to convince them it wasn't worthless, and really try to work the system.
Right.
But we only managed to, and people were also afraid of retaliation, which is totally understandable. So we managed to get 17 complaints, and we physically took them directly to the CRB, to the executive director, and that was the end of it. Nobody ever heard anything more about those complaints. So we decided to investigate what's really going on with the Citizens Review Board and why nothing happened with those complaints. And what we discovered, as everybody now knows, is that the complaints directly go to the Internal Affairs Department of the Police Department, and they decide whether or not to investigate them, whether they're, quote, serious enough or fit within the Category 1 complaints, whether they're going to investigate them or not. And they decided apparently not to investigate any of those complaints. Just to tell you how serious those complaints were, we subsequently, I've also belonged to the National Lawyers Guild, and the Guild subsequently filed civil lawsuits, 3 different civil lawsuits on behalf of occupiers, and we won money judgments in all of those lawsuits against the police department in the city. So they were serious enough for the city to give the complainants money, but not serious enough for the police department
Who filed the
to
lawsuits?
investigate. Well, there were various plaintiffs who were occupiers and National Lawyers Guild attorneys working with law students filed those lawsuits and eventually settled them.
Okay. And what is your role with Women Occupy?
Well, I'm one of just a member of Women Occupy. We're kind of just a member group. We don't have officers. And we decided to take up this issue. And we've been working for several years. We've looked at many models, and when we talked with people from the CLRB, the county, we really liked their model. And so working off of their model, we came up with a number of proposals to reform the Citizens Review Board, and we have been moving forward with those.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah. So okay. I'll ask you one more question. We got about a minute, I guess, to go on this. What is the difference between the independent boards and non-independent boards?
Well, the boards are supposedly independent. They will tell you look on their website, CRB will say that they are independent because they do a, quote, independent review. We do not believe that they're independent. What they do is the Internal Affairs does all the investigation. They talk to all the witnesses. They summarize the interviews with the witnesses. They and then they put together their report and recommendation. And the, quote, independent CRB members are able to, and that's what they're supposed to do, go to the police department to look at the records, to listen to the witness interviews, now they can look at the body camera footage, and they're able to do that, but they have to go to the police department during working hours to do that, which is very difficult for people. And they can, after they do this, quote, review, they can then either agree with the recommendations or not agree with the recommendations of the police department and make their own recommendations. What we found, and we were really astonished when we heard what really goes on with the CRB when we talked to former members, is that it's almost impossible for the CRB members to disagree with the police department.
Okay, we're going to pick right back up where you left off. When we come back, we're going to take a break, and so we ask that you stay tuned, and we'll be back after this brief commercial. All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for staying with us. Now, we want to pick up right where we left off, and we have Miss Yavenditti. She was talking to us about Women Occupy and the difference between independent and non-independent review boards. And, of course, they say they're independent, but we know that they're not, based on, especially if they have to go through internal affairs and wait for them to come to them, and all that's just confusing there. So you can pick up where you left off at.
Well, yes. We initially wanted 5 changes in the CRB. We wanted independent investigators, which is what the county has. The county does investigations of sheriffs, probation department, and non-contract cities. We wanted subpoena power. We wanted to change the name from Citizens Review Board to Community Review Board to make it more inclusive of the entire community. We wanted more transparency and tracking, and we wanted the appointment of the CRB members to come from each council district to make sure that all council districts were equally represented. That's where we started.
Right.
And we thought that was pretty straightforward. But the more we heard about what's going on internally with the CRB, it became very clear that we absolutely need independent legal counsel. So we've added that. And the reason that became clear is because we've heard reports from former CRB members that the city attorney, who is the current legal counsel, has been very influential in having a CRB not make findings against police officers. And the reasons are obvious, because the city, they are there to protect the city against any liability. So if the CRB says that an officer really did something wrong, that there was police misconduct, then that's obvious potential liability against the city. So they have a clear conflict of interest. So now we have added that. The Ethics Commission of the city has independent legal counsel and independent investigators. We think that's essential to have a truly independent review board. So that's where we are, and we have a lot of other proposals. But where we are in this process is that we've talked to a lot of people. We've talked to the Police Officers Association, to Chief Zimmerman, all of the council members at least once, some 2 and 3 times. We've talked to the mayor's office. We've talked to lots and lots of the current executive director of the CRB, the current and former members, and we put together a ballot proposal. The fortunate thing is, for timing, is that the council is going through this charter review process, and the CRB is in the charter. So in order to make changes to that, you have to change the charter. And this is the time to do that. So we have presented a charter proposal to change the charter to make the CRB truly independent, truly transparent. Right now, when you file a complaint, you have no idea what happens to it. That's what happened to the Occupy complaints. That's what happens to everybody. You don't know what happens to it. At least with the CLRB, they have that on their website. The CLRB puts on their website the recommendations and what happens with the complaints. None of that is available in the city. So we feel that this needs to happen. We also discovered that many of the CRB members have ties to law enforcement in one way or the other, through marriage, through being retired officers, through being RSVP officers. We just don't think that that's appropriate. We've heard CR members who have said they will never vote against the police. That's just not appropriate. members of the board who will said, I will never make a finding against the police. I'm here to support the police.
Can't you complain? Put in a complaint?
Well, yeah. I mean, this was public. This was actually recorded. There was recordings there, and that person is still a member of the CRB. So we really need the ability to have the members also be truly independent and be vetted in some way, and part of our proposal includes that. So where we are in the process, so we've been kicked back and forth in the City Council between the Charter Review Committee, where we went first, and they sent it to Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods, and they sent us back to Charter Review, and they sent us back to Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods. So at the last Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods meeting last week, Councilmember Gloria, we were able to present everything we wanted. There was quite a discussion.
So Councilman Gloria is a supporter of you.
Councilmember Gloria actually presented a recommendation that was unanimously adopted that is really minor, in my view. It does not include the major things that we need.
Right.
His recommendation is to change the name to Community Review Board, to have both the City Council and the City Council members involved in the appointment process, not just the mayor and the City Council members, not just the mayor, which is hopefully some diversity, and to include all in-custody deaths and police shootings as part of the review process. Well, that's supposedly already part of the review process, but that's not been happening. So,
and he knows what you all want.
Of course he knows. We've met with him a number of times. He actually included in his last budget proposal, which of course wasn't accepted, $500,000 in the budget for independent investigators and for independent legal counsel. So he knows how important that is, but I think for some reason, politically, he did not put that in his recommendation, and that's the only thing we have now that's proceeding to Charter Review. But that's not the end. I mean, Charter Review can certainly add to that recommendation. The guts of our proposal, the most important parts of our proposal, were not part of the recommendation that are being forwarded to Charter Review, and that's essential. I mean, it's nice that there's a couple little, changes in the wording, which we think is important, but it's really not the guts of the proposal, and it's not what the community wants and what the community needs for a review board that they can trust.
Right.
We need to take the investigation away from the police department. That's just an absolute bottom line essential.
So, and I know you may have answered this, but somewhere in the midst of what you're saying, I want to narrow it down. What would a independent review board look like then to us?
What we have proposed is that the investigations be done by independent investigators hired by the board. The board is all volunteer members. Currently there's 23 volunteer members. Currently they are all appointed by the mayor.
Right.
We would like them to be appointed, we would like 20, we would like more, so that 3 are appointed by every council member, so that there's diversity within the city, because there's currently not diversity. We want the volunteer members to be in control of the process. So the investigators do their own independent investigation. The volunteer members then review that investigation and are able to ask questions, and if they want to talk to more witnesses, if they want more information, any of that can be done, and then they can make their recommendations.
Wow. So let me ask you this.
There's a couple other things that I think are really important.
Go ahead.
We do not want police officers in the CRB meetings. We have heard that police officers have actually spoken up when CRB members are questioning a recommendation and say, well, we really think there was misconduct here. And the police officer says, no, you can't do that. You can't vote against the police department.
Wow.
So we're asking for them not to be in the meetings.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's kind of crazy there. Now, when did this happen?
I can't tell you exactly, but this came from within the last 3 or 4 years, because it came from a former CRB member who was off the board recently.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So when you talk about the 23 members of the of this board, because I know I'm a commissioner on the City Center Gang Commission, I know that For me, I got nominated by Councilman David Alvarez. Then it goes to the mayor's office and approved, and then it goes back to the city council. So you're saying that the mayor had selected the 23, and the council members didn't have any say in that?
I don't know that they didn't have any say. What I
Okay.
know is that the charter review says, currently it says it's appointed by the city manager, and that will be changed to mayor.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I do believe that probably council members may put forward
Names.
some of their candidates, or people within their district, or people that they have a relationship with may ask for their appointment to be supported by a city council member. But there's no way to know that because it's a political process and it just goes directly to the mayor's office.
Right.
So
right.
what we want is and right now the districts are not evenly represented at all.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, because I know with us.
Nor
I'm sorry,
is until maybe within the last 3 months, if you looked at the board last year in 2015, the board was basically all white. They've now brought on a couple African American members. I know they brought on a Latina, but I know that also last year they refused to reappoint a Latina, telling her that she just asked too many questions, and she was just, they just didn't want her on the board because she asked too many questions.
So the mayor didn't reappoint her then?
Right, the mayor did not reappoint her because she was asking too many questions.
Wow.
And the same is true for a disabled woman, was not reappointed for exactly the same reason. So, they don't want people who are questioning what the police department is giving them.
Wow. That's something else there. And so, like, in our charter, it talks about each council member can nominate someone for their district to represent their district on the commission. So they don't have that in their charter.
No, and that's
Wow.
that's part of our proposal, is
Okay.
to put that in the charter.
Okay, well, yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's good information to know. Have you? So you all have had conversations with Charmaine, the
Yes.
executive director of the Citizen Review Board?
Yes.
What kind of conversations have you had with her in regards to this?
Well, we met with her when she first came here from Albany, and so she was relatively new and didn't quite know how things were, and she was really open to us, and recently she's been less open to us, but we do see that she has made some improvements in the way the CRB has operated. Her difficulty when she came here is that prior to her being here, the CRB only had a part-time director. And so they haven't done annual reports since 2009, for example. I mean, there's a lot of back work that she had to do.
Yeah.
And then the perf report came out, and some of the perf report required some transparency between the CRB and the police department about the status of complaints, but not between the CRB and the public. So she's worked on that. She's changed the complaint form. She's done a few other things. But, and currently what she's saying is, she thinks that everything is fine to have the police department do the investigations. Even though in Albany, they had independent legal counsel, they had subpoena power, and they had independent investigators. So she's worked under a system that we're asking for. But I think, her position is she will do what her job tells her to do, and I think she's trying very hard to do the job that she
to work
has.
within the
That
system.
she has. But I don't
without
think that
ruffling feathers.
I don't think she's in a political position
Exactly.
where she can.
Exactly. So, what is the difference between what was voted for in regards to the CRB and what we have on the books as a charter?
As you said, there were two propositions. The proposition that the city proposed had independent investigators and subpoena power, and the other proposition was proposed by the Police Officers Association, did not have independent investigators and subpoena power, and passed by only 800 votes. They both passed by a majority vote, but the one that the Police Officers Association supported passed by 800 more votes, so it's the one that was adopted. Those are the primary differences.
Okay.
And we've talked with the Police Officers Association, by the way, about our proposals.
Okay. Now, I've heard reports in the news about the role of the executive director of the board have changed. Do you know what has changed in regards to Charmaine Mosley's position?
Prior to Ms. Mosley coming here, the executive director was primarily kind of a supportive staff person to the CRB, and she would schedule the meetings and get the, do the agenda and do that sort of thing. But she really didn't have decision-making authority. She wasn't able to, that sort of thing. She was a staff person to the volunteer members. And since she's been here, there's been a lot of bylaw rewriting going on, and with her and the city attorney, and they've been giving more and more power and authority to the executive director and the city attorney, and taking that sort of independent power away from the volunteer members.
Can you give me an example as far as giving her more authority and the city manager more authority versus?
Well, I mean, she is now able to in the meetings. She is now able to sway the recommendations and to tell the CRB members whether or not that's an acceptable recommendation.
You couldn't do that before.
Well, she couldn't do that before. And there are a lot of other committees and sort of in rewriting the bylaws and other kinds of things that have been basically giving her more control, so that the CRB volunteer members are really just sort of secondary, and we really think that the community members should have a hand in hiring, evaluating the executive director, as well as the investigators. That really the community needs to be in control. Okay,
so you brought out some of the changes that you want, as far as as they're going to give you the name, or they're working on giving you the name, community review board, I guess you would call it. What are one of the major changes that you would like to see with that review board?
I want independent investigators.
Okay.
I want independent legal counsel. Just as an aside on the legal counsel issue, apparently Miss Mosley at the meeting, city council meeting last week, said that she agrees with that. That's acceptable to her. It should not be the city attorney office. 4 out of the 5 city attorney candidates that I've talked to, and only because I haven't talked to the fifth, so I don't know his position, but 4 of the 5 agree that should be independent legal counsel. So it seems to me,
city manager, what position is
city attorney?
City attorney.
That we need independent counsel advising the review board, not the city attorney.
Okay.
So we need to have independent investigators, independent legal counsel, and subpoena power. Absolutely.
Okay, so I got a little confused when I was doing a little research on this, because I saw things happening last year. I don't know if it was May or March, somewhere around that time, and then I heard you all submitted some request or a letter in January of this year.
We did.
So where are you all in that process right now, as far as are we going to see this charter change, or?
Well, I can't answer yes or no to that. We're actually doing a dual process, and it's a little, I don't know, it's kind of gobbledygook speak, but we are trying to get the Charter Review Committee to put what we want on the November ballot.
Okay.
That's one process. So the recommendation that Councilmember Gloria made is now going to Charter Review. That's going to be heard by the Charter Review Committee on April 20th. We really
April 20th?
April 20th. I frankly don't know if it's morning or afternoon, but it's April 20th. And we really need to have the community out there to say, you need to add independent legal counsel, you need to add independent investigators, you need to add subpoena power to this ballot proposal. It's essential. So that's one track to go on the ballot. The other thing that we did in January was we gave our ballot proposal to the Rules Committee. Any person can write a ballot proposal, piece of legislation, and provide it to the Rules Committee, and they will decide whether or not to forward that on to the full City Council, for the City Council then to put it on the ballot. So that was kind of a backup for us. If we weren't able to get Charter Review to consider our proposal, that we would then have to go to the full City Council to ask them to put our proposal.
So that's where I got confused. I thought it was one process.
I know, it's very confusing. It is.
Now, Ms. Mendonca, is there in listening to what we're talking about and the role that you all are playing, what is your opinion about this reform and making these changes?
I am in support of whatever actions are needed to have what is reflect what to have what the CRB should what they should reflect as far as community oversight. I think that from our standpoint, because what we do with United Against Police Terror is that there's a lot of victim advocacy. So many different cases where there has been an officer-involved death. There's been many times where it's been ruled as justifiable, only to have that ruling to be overturned, or to have a judge review the actions of the district attorney and say that this evidence needs to be unsealed. The officer's actions really do contradict, or the officer's story does not match. So basically, what we do on our end is kind of put forth all of the public information, all of the information regarding, the scanner audio, witness statements, basically have the victim's family be a voice and say that there was something that happened, and making sure that, their stories are in the news as well. So they can see part of that transparency and say that there is something wrong. So kind of like kind of as an extension as to what Women Occupy San Diego are doing, and saying that we need these changes. So we're kind of on the other end saying this is what happens when we don't have this change. We don't have something that's independent from the police department.
Gotcha.
And, definitely, the city attorney, the district attorney, and investigating all shootings or officer-involved deaths ever since she came into her position, and founding each one of them justified, and actually having a lot of officer-involved deaths not even researched yet. And it was actually found, I think, for 2 years, for the most the last few years, there have been an overwhelming number of shootings, and it's not acceptable. And especially for, not, like I said, the city attorney, the district attorney, everybody that has an interest in the officers, the city employees, have a say as to whether or not they messed up or they didn't follow protocol. And then only to have the victim's family try to pick up the pieces and say that, well, we have a lawyer, we took this to court, a judge overruled. It goes to show that there is a clear conflict of interest. So we're just going to keep on fighting on the other end and promoting, justice for all the victims' families, and putting the scanner audio. And, I think the most recent shooting that we have a witness statement on is
What shooting is that?
Lamontes Jones. Well, there's two shootings I want to reference. One of them was a 31-year-old Victor Ortega that happened in 2012. The judge overruled the district attorney, saying it was justified, and they say that there was the changes in the officer's story.
And that's for the civil.
It doesn't. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't. So I think the family is waiting on the San Diego Police Department on if they're going to appeal it. But the judge overruled, saying there were inconsistencies with the officer's story. After the district attorney found it justified, another shooting occurred, Lamontes Jones, that happened last year, and finding witness statements saying that there's definitely more to the story, that there's the perception that officers believed or knew that Lamontes was holding a fake gun, and in the case of Lamontes Jones and Ferdun Rashnahad, body cameras weren't even on. And it was only after the fact that something tragic happened, that they decided to have a policy of turning them on. But what kind of accountability can we have when we give them all this money, and they wait till after the fact that the officers have messed up, and actually have Cheeserman to defend their actions, saying it was split second, and whatever she was saying. So for Dune's shooting to be found justified, and for the district attorney not even releasing the only footage that's really not their property, because it was private, and then finally a judge unsealing and saying that the footage needs to be released and basically shows what she is trying to conceal.
Right. And so the one shooting you're talking about, is that the one that happened downtown last year?
Yes.
And so the guy had a fake gun?
It's believed by witness statements that officers on the scene did know that he had a fake gun. If you pay attention to what Officer Nislet said in the news, he did state that it appeared to be, and I don't know, a lot of the wording he said wasn't confirmed whether or not, and I don't know if that's just PR, but it makes you think that they knew there was more to the story and quite possibly didn't come out with that. I know that our organization came out with 2 officers' names that came up on the audio scanner, because again, Chief Zimmerman didn't release the 2 names until after we released our names, so we're kind of just. Our goal was basically just pressuring, saying that if you will not come out with this data, we will go ahead and post this data, post the audio, and just have it brought to light as far as.
Wow. So, and one of the problems that I see, and I think a lawyer or someone brought it up, is that they have these certain rules when there's a shooting. They have these laws and rules in regards to investigating. And I'm wondering, how does that limit the Citizens Review Board in regards to the investigation when there's a shooting? Because we know the police come in, I don't know if internal affairs come in and so on. And I know it's supposed to automatically go to the Citizens Review Board, right? When do they start their investigation when that shooting happens? Do you know?
They generally don't. They generally wait. There's actually 2 questions in there.
Right.
When there's a shooting, what we call in the legal world statute of limitations does not run under the statute and under the law.
Okay.
So, but obviously the officer is not going to talk, right? If he's being investigated for a shooting. So you're not going to be able to get those statements. So the CRB defers and lets the investigation go on. And
let me interject or just ask a question along those lines, because I know I was in my research, I saw some information where I think it was someone was saying that they have to answer the questions when they're before the Citizens Review Board. The police officers have to answer their questions. Is that true or not true?
I believe that that's probably not true.
Okay.
I mean, the Citizens Review Board is not a court. It doesn't have the authority to file a contempt. And the other thing, and this is what the POA asked us about open hearings, witnesses don't come to the CRB hearings. Witnesses are not openly interviewed by the CRB or anybody.
Just see the file.
Right now, they're interviewed privately by internal affairs, or with the clerk. They're interviewed privately by the investigator. They don't come. It's not open. And in fact, the names of the officers are confidential. And that's still going to be the case under our proposal. We're not releasing the names of the officers as far as the CRB goes. Now, if they're public in some other way, that's fine. The other sort of statute of limitations issue is that under the Police Officers' Bill of Rights, any discipline has to be done within a year.
Right.
So, so the CRB really is supposed to get its work done within a year. But what we have found has happened is if there is any potential that the complainant has also filed a civil complaint with the city, the city will not allow the CRB to go forward while they're still dealing with the possibility of a complaint, and so the statute runs and the CRB can't deal with anything. So it's really...
So the city's controlling some of this too, then?
The city is controlling...
And when we say the city, are we talking about city attorney?
The city attorney is also controlling some of what gets heard, yes.
Wow, that's the most definitely need to be changed.
Yes.
Now, I know that, the San Diego County citizens voted to establish a Citizen Law Enforcement Review Board in November 1990, excuse me. And this review board, to my understanding, they can receive and investigate complaints of misconduct concerning peace officers, and I know we're talking about with the sheriffs and the probation department, and they are authorized to investigate any deaths that occur in the custody of or in connection with actions of deputies and probation officers. It's made of 11, I guess, appointed members. So, and I know a lot of people talk about that. I hear that all the time. People talking about the sheriff's or the county's review board, dealing with the sheriffs and the probation department. And I guess you feel that the difference is between them and the citizen review board of the city is that they have that independent investigation.
Yes.
Okay. And speaking of that independent investigation, and what the investigation that the Citizen Review Board do, can you tell us what you see the difference is in those two investigations?
Well, the difference is that the independent investigators are hired by the clerk. They are not law enforcement.
Okay.
In fact, the two that they currently have are previously investigators for Public Defender's Office.
Okay.
And so they're employees of the clerk. They are not law enforcement. They're not internal affairs. So they don't have a stake in protecting the officers that they are investigating.
Let me
That's
ask you
the way
something.
I look at it.
How are the 11 people that are appointed to the clerk? How are they appointed?
They're appointed. I believe they're appointed by the Board of Supervisors, and I believe at this point there's only 6.
Oh wow.
So they're not able to get through their workload. I mean, that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
About, it has nothing to do with the 1 year, but they just, with 6 of them.
At least they have a better system.
Right,
Yeah.
but their system is better. They have an executive director, 2 independent investigators, and a full-time staff person.
Okay. I guess the thought that was running in my mind in regards to that, because you can have all those good things, but if you have someone like on the Citizen Review Board that says, hey, I'm not going to never, ever rule against a police officer, you can have this, even though you have an independent,
Absolutely.
You can have the same thing. So how do we...
Well, that's where activists come in. That's
Okay.
where people like Kathy's group and Women Occupy and the community activists come in and make sure that we get good community people on the board. We get good people to apply. Anybody can apply to be on the CRB. I mean, they were begging for applications because they had a bunch of vacancies, and
Right.
they just filled all their vacancies. Although, of course, one of our members applied and didn't get appointed. But
I don't think I'd get appointed either.
no, I don't think they would get appointed.
But that's not right. That's not,
There are a lot of community
Right.
members, and so it's up to us to get good people appointed, and then to be a watchdog, like Kathy's group is with Cop Watch. To go, all of the meetings are open, well, except for the meetings where they discuss personnel records, where they actually discuss things, like we can go to the meetings. Women Occupy go to the meetings, and we're often the only people there.
Right, right.
And of course, it's hard for the community to do that, even though the meetings are in the evening. But if we're really serious about it, we have to keep watching what's going on. We don't just stop with saying, "Oh, we got the legislation we want." End of story. No, it's never the end.
Yeah. So it's not a fix-all. Even if you get what you want, it requires us as a community and as citizens and being a part of the city and county to hold these folks accountable. Ms. Mendonca.
I just have a quick question / comment. I've spoken with people who have been victimized by police, and they would straight up say, like, I am not comfortable in the CRB. It's kind of what you were saying, because of police being there and people that are heavily biased. Right. It'd be great to have something in place where it's a safe space for victims to speak out and not feel that, there's the actual... They may be re-triggered because of the idea that, police are going to be in the same room, or pro-police people in the same room.
We feel that a lot of witnesses, a lot of complainants are not comfortable being interviewed by an internal affairs officer. I filed a complaint myself, and my son at age 15 was beat up by police.
Wow.
And the first thing they did when they came to our house was they said, you can be sued for filing a false complaint. First thing they said to us. So, I can see that a lot of people would be intimidated by being interviewed by Internal Affairs, and that's another way of them controlling their review process.
Okay. Before we close, I know we have a few minutes left, but I do want to get to this question because I know this is one of the issues that are debated is subpoena power.
Right.
To my understanding, the clerk has subpoena power, but the Citizen Review Board for the city does not have subpoena power.
That's correct.
And I've been told, I've heard for and against that it's really not necessary because then the officers will shut up and lock down and not do anything. Why would we want subpoena power, and what effect would that have on the investigation?
Well, what we found, and the county has told us this, and we've heard from Albany and other places, that most places that have subpoena power have never had to use it, but it's been a weapon in the background in case they're not able to get what they need from law enforcement. And so the county spent many, many years, in fact, I had to go almost through a lawsuit to get access to police records, but they had in the background the fact that they had subpoena power, and what the POA said was, well, you can subpoena us all you want, but we don't have to talk. And of course that's true, right? The clerk doesn't have the ability to do that.
Okay.
But we think it's important to have.
Okay. They don't have to talk, so that can they tell Internal Affairs that too? They don't have to talk. They have a rights, I guess.
I think whatever their relationship is with Internal Affairs is very different than it is with the outside world.
Yeah, but if they refuse to talk to Internal Affairs, they can get fired. But that doesn't mean that they have to talk, though.
Right.
Okay, got you. But if you want to hold on to your job and maybe not have criminal charges brought against you, you better talk to us and cooperate so we can get you back. One of those type of deals. So. Why is it said that the San Diego Police Department can't investigate their own selves when they have this review board? I mean, and I know you brought up some information about the Citizen Review Board, but and like you said, they do say that they're independent, but we hear it all the time that they can't investigate themselves. But you have the Citizen Review Board. It's almost as though people treat the Citizen Review Board as its non-existence, or they're not using the power that they have, if they have any power, or perceived power.
Well, I think the community sees the Citizens Review Board as a rubber stamp, that they will always accept what comes from Internal Affairs, and what we hear from the former members is that that's essentially true. Occasionally they have made changes and recommendations, but if there are police in the room with them, I think that's intimidating, and I think that Internal Affairs, like I said about witnesses, isn't necessarily getting all the information from witnesses. And I think really the important thing is community trust.
Right.
The community is not going to trust a police department that investigates itself.
Right. Well, we thank you. We have about a minute left. Anything you, Miss Mendonca or Yavenditti, have anything else you want to say?
Maybe just do a plug for the list of officers that have been involved in officer-involved deaths. As far as brutalities and our stolen lives list can all be found on our website. You go to uaptsd.org. That's United Against Police Terror, the acronym uaptsd.org.
And I would just ask for people to contact your council member and support true reform of the Citizens Review Board. And the council members need to hear from you. They are your employees. And if people can come out to the April 20th Charter Review Committee hearing, that would also be terrific.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank you, Miss Catherine Mendonca and Miss Kate Yavenditti for being on our show. It was an honor and privilege to have you guys on the show. And I'd like to encourage all our listeners, make sure you come by and visit us at Charity Apostolic Church, 610 South 30th Street, San Diego, California, 92113, 11:30s on Saturday. So we thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week for another great show on What's Happening Now with KBLKradio.com. Thank you, and may Yahweh bless you.